It appears as though the pure chaos from yesterday is just bleeding into today. The trades just don't stop coming. In this video, we have multiple more big deals to talk about, one of which actually was reported on late last night after the first round concluded, and that is Sam Reinhart being traded to the Florida Panthers. But for whatever reason, we still don't know the full details of the Sam Reinhart trade. I'm going to talk about it anyways, though, because we do have bits and pieces. So we'll start off the video by talking about the Sam Reinhart trade. From everything that I've gathered so far, the details of the trade are, of course, Sam Reinhart to the Florida Panthers in exchange for goalie prospect Devin Levi. Elliot Friedman reported on that last night that he believed Devin Levi would be part of the return going to Buffalo, and then more likely than not, the other part of the return for Buffalo is draft picks, and we don't know which round the draft picks are just yet. I would imagine a first round pick has to be involved in some capacity when you consider what Buffalo was able to get for Rasmus Ristolainen. 2 hours ago, Darren Dreger actually gave an update about the trade. He said language involving some of the draft picks included in the Reinhart trade to Florida is what gummed things up. Expect to be wrapped up soon. So what I gathered from that is obviously draft picks, so it seems there's multiple, and I feel like there could be maybe some conditions on one or multiple of the picks, and that's what's holding things up. They're waiting to get all the information on what the conditions could be. My best guess for how the final details of this trade will look like is Sam Reinhart for Devin Levi, a protected 2022 first round pick, and then maybe like a later round draft pick. That's just pure speculation though. Anyways, let's talk about the Florida Panthers acquiring Sam Reinhart here. He is obviously the biggest piece in this trade. This is an amazing addition for the Florida Panthers in my opinion. Sam Reinhart I feel like often gets overlooked because he didn't really develop into the superstar he was projected to be when Buffalo selected him second overall back in 2014. He's coming off of a season in which he led the Buffalo Sabres in goals with 25, and he also led the team in points with 40 in 54 games. He was one of very few Buffalo Sabres that actually produced throughout their horrendous season, and you have to remember that Jack Eichel was basically out for the entire season. So for the people that said Sam Reinhart's offensive totals were only good the past couple of seasons because he played with Eichel and Olofsson, that narrative can be put to bed. Sam Reinhart proved this season he can produce without Jack Eichel, and on top of putting up good offensive numbers, Sam Reinhart has actually put up pretty solid defensive analytics throughout his career as well, especially when you consider the fact that he's been on a terrible Buffalo Sabres team for his entire career. Sam Reinhart is a legit above average top 6 two-way forward. He's also pretty versatile as well in the sense that he can play both the wing and the center position. My guess is that he's likely going to be playing a lot of center now that he's a member of the Florida Panthers, likely slotting in that 2C position behind Alexander Barkov, and that's a role that I definitely think Reinhart is going to be able to thrive in. Now he is currently a restricted free agent, so he needs a new contract. His previous cap hit was $5.2 million. I would imagine he's going to get a slight raise from that. I could see him coming in around the $6 million AAV mark. So again, I love this addition for the Panthers, and although we still don't know what the full return is for Buffalo, even if Florida gave up Devin Levi, who was definitely expendable for them because they have a guy like Spencer Knight, and let's say on top of Levi it's a first round pick and then maybe like a third as well or a fourth or something, I still think that's worth it for the Panthers. And now quickly touching on this trade from the point of view of the Buffalo Sabres, there isn't really a whole lot to unpack here. We knew they were going to trade Sam Reinhart eventually. They're tearing everything down over there in Buffalo. Based on all of the reports of what the return is likely going to look like for Buffalo, I would say it's pretty solid. You get a guy in Devin Levi who could potentially wind up being their goalie of the future. It's obviously still way too early to tell. I mean, he was just drafted in 2020, but he's a great prospect, and if one of the draft picks coming back to Buffalo on top of Devin Levi is a first rounder, I would say that's great value. And even if it's not a first round pick coming back and it's Levi in a couple of seconds, I would say that's still pretty decent value, and they can afford to maybe get a little bit less than they would have expected or would have wanted for Reinhart when you consider what they got for Ristolainen yesterday. So those are my thoughts on the Sam Reinhart trade, or at least what we know of the trade right now. Of course, be sure to get down there in the comment section down below and let me know your thoughts on the trade. How do you think Sam Reinhart is going to fit in Florida, and maybe some of your predictions on what the actual return will be for Buffalo. Now let's talk about the trade that just broke not too long ago. This is a classic hockey trade, a 1-for-1 swap. Jacob Voracek sent to the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for Cam Atkinson. It doesn't appear as though there's any salary retention, there's no draft picks involved, it's just straight up Voracek for Atkinson. And this is definitely a weird one. It kind of came out of left field. I'm going to echo what I said in my video talking about the Ristolainen trade yesterday. Chuck Fletcher is not messing around this offseason. He is making big moves, and this is definitely a pretty weird trade. To me, it just screams Philadelphia wanted to shake up the core. It's been rumored they wanted to move on from Voracek for a while now, and I feel like the Flyers did pretty well here. Voracek is a contract that I figured they would have had to at least attach something onto to get rid of, but not here. They take on Cam Atkinson, who is 1 year older than Voracek, but he makes a lot less. His cap hit is only $5.875 million, and he signed through the 2025 24-25 season, and that's compared to Jacob Voracek's cap hit of $8.25 million, and he's signed through the 2023-24 season, so one less year on Voracek's contract compared to Atkinson's. In terms of who's the better player right now, I feel like it's kind of up in the air. It's pretty debatable. I feel like Voracek can still be a guy that gets you 55 to 60 points in an 82 game season, and Atkinson's a guy who can get you 30 goals in an 82 game season. Neither of these guys are known for their defensive abilities. Cam Atkinson did have better defensive analytics this past season, however they still weren't good. I'm really interested to see how this trade plays out. I'm more so interested of Voracek in Columbus than I am of Atkinson in Philadelphia, because it seems like these two teams are kind of heading in different directions. The Columbus Blue Jackets are heading towards more of a rebuild, and Philadelphia is obviously trying to compete for a Stanley Cup based off of the moves they've made so far this offseason. Jacob Voracek is definitely going to be a nice veteran presence to have there in Columbus, mentor some of the younger players. And as far as him making $8.25 million, yeah, that's a lot, but is Columbus really going to need that cap space in the near future? Probably not. In the end, I really don't think this trade makes either of these teams better or worse. It's just one of those deals to shake things up. Now, those of course are just my thoughts. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say, so be sure to get down there in the comments section down below. Let me know your thoughts on this trade, especially if you are a fan of either Philadelphia or Columbus. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this trade in particular over the Reinhart one, because again, it's just kind of a weird one, right?